Hey guys, in today's video we're going to talk about Yamoshi, the first goddess of Saiyans, in a full-color fan manga. Yamoshi will return but in a different form to help Goku and his friends save the Earth from a terrible enemy. But for Goku to find new information about Yamoshi, we will need Shenron's help again, and you will see this amazing story now. So get one bucket of popcorn and your soda, and come with me. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Well, without further ado, let's get started. In the 7th universe, the Saiyans were catching their breath and already with their guard down because they believed that the battle against Gas was over, but Frieza appeared in the middle of the battlefield and finished off Gas by killing him. And not only that, but the Emperor ended up demonstrating that he had become much more powerful since their last meeting, which was at the time of the Power Tournament, and at that moment Goku, Vegeta, and Granola were in shock when Frieza revealed that he had achieved a new transformation that surpassed the power of Golden Frieza, and Frieza ended up naming his new transformation Black Frieza. And using that new form, Frieza managed to defeat all three warriors with extreme ease. All of them were using their powers to the fullest, and not even Goku, who was using the power of Ultra Instinct, could dodge the Emperor's blow. He didn't kill any of the three because he just didn't want to. As the Saiyans' humiliating defeat at the hands of the Emperor of the Universe, who was much more powerful than they could have imagined, Goku, using what was left of his strength, crawled on the ground to approach Vegeta, who had passed out, and Granola, who was also on the ground. He was still awake, and when Goku managed to get close to the two, he used the remaining energy he had and used his teleportation technique to teleport everyone to the Capsule Corporation. When Bulma saw her husband and her childhood friend very injured, she, with the help of her son Trunks and with the help of Goten, Goku's youngest son, who was there, took both the Saiyans to a hospital area, and Goku, Granola's request, was also taken to the medical area, and the three ended up being placed in recovery capsules where they stayed for hours. During that time, when the trio was having their strength and bodies recovered little by little, Bulma left the Capsule Corporation and began calling the name of Whis and Beerus, who, even though they were divine beings, had already become great friends with mortals, especially Bulma and her family, and after a few hours the God of Destruction and his angel arrived on planet Earth. But Bulma couldn't explain anything to either of them because not even she knew what had happened to her husband and her friend Goku. After a few hours, the trio was no longer at risk of life. It was already possible to see a great improvement because they were already able to walk even with some pain. And all this thanks to Whis, who was in the place where he used his powers to heal the trio of warriors. And with so, Vegeta began to tell everything that had happened from the moment when Goku faced Granola until the moment when Granola allied with the Saiyans to defeat Gas. And in the end, the three were defeated by Frieza and his new transformation that easily subdued Goku, who was using the power of Ultra Instinct, and Vegeta, who was using the power of Ultra Ego, and also Granola was defeated. After Vegeta explained everything that happened along with Goku and Granola, all the three were sitting at a table that was full of food, and next to them was Bulma, Whis, and Beerus, who were trying to understand how all this happened in such a short time. Bulma said, "So Frieza has been an enemy of Goku and Vegeta for a long time, who had been killed by Goku when he came to Earth to kill Goku, and then was revived after the end of the Power Tournament, now came back with everything and is now more powerful than Goku, who has the power that only angels could dominate, and Vegeta, who has a power that only the gods of destruction have. And besides that, Frieza also managed to defeat this guy, who is a Tuffle, and who has a power as great as these two?" said Bulma to see if she had really understood everything her husband told her. Granola said, "I thought you said that this human was smart, but it seems that she is not so smart because she didn't understand something as simple as that, and that's kind of disappointing." Tuffle said while looking at Bulma, who ended up getting a nerve pulsing in his forehead in anger at Granola's speech. Goku said, "She must have understood, but Bulma is the type of person who listens to the story and then summarizes it in an easier way for some people to understand. And most of the time that person is me, ha ha ha," said the Saiyan before raising his hand on the back of his neck and scratching it, then gave a wan smile. Vegeta said, "Regardless of what happened, one thing is an undeniable fact. Frieza came back, and he came back very powerful. So powerful that not even Kakarot and I are able to face him alone. And not even with Granola's help we could face the damn Frieza, and that is frustrating," said the Prince of Saiyans while looking at Granola and his Saiyan rival. Beerus said, "Frieza was already problematic before, but now with this new power, he is an even greater danger to everyone, and especially to you, Saiyans, since he has a great hatred for you too. And it is surprising that he did not kill any of you in the moment. But I think he didn't do that because he wanted to humiliate you two little by little. And in the future he will undoubtedly kill you. And when he succeeds, he will end up destroying planet Earth, said the god of destruction while looking at both the Saiyans who knew that Beerus was telling the truth. Bulma said, "Since Goku and Vegeta cannot defeat Frieza together, even using their full power, then you could use the fusion with the Potara earrings, or doing the fusion dance. After all, Vegeta and Gogeta are much stronger than you two apart." Goku said, "It would be a great solution, but I don't think it would work because the fusion with the Potara earrings lasts only 1 hour of fusion, and depending upon the amount of energy we use, the fusion will have its time reduced. And doing the fusion dance won't work either, since Frieza is now extremely powerful. And I believe that even Gogeta using Super Saiyan Blue could defeat Frieza," said Goku while looking at Bulma. And even having a good idea, Goku believes that the fusion would not be enough. Vegeta said, "Also, I would have to do that horrible dance with Kakarot, and doing that dance takes time, and Frieza already knows Gogeta's power, so Frieza would know how to face Gogeta. So I believe it wouldn't be a good idea," said the Prince of Saiyans while looking about what could happen in a battle between Gogeta and Frieza. Granola said, "In short, in a quick and easy way, you have no idea how to face that damn Frieza, and much less do you have the power to defeat him and protect this planet. Damn it." Vegeta spoke, "You talk as you were able to face him alone, don't you, Granola?" Whis said, "I think you better calm down, because it doesn't matter who's right or wrong in this matter, because you all have the same goal, which is to defeat Frieza. Why don't you try to ask Shenron for help? Maybe he won't find more information about Yamoshi," said the angel while looking at the Saiyans, who was surprised to see Whis talking about the Dragon of Desires. Bulma said, "It's true. Maybe we don't have a way to defeat Frieza, but maybe Shenron has an idea," said the surprised and excited woman. After all, she already had the Dragon Balls in her possession, and could ask the dragon for help, who had helped them many times in the past. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on planet Earth, it was possible to see Son Goku, Vegeta, Granola, Whis, and Beerus gathered in the backyard of the Capsule Corporation. Everyone was waiting for Bulma, who had entered the Capsule Corporation to get the Dragon Balls that were with her. Bulma believed that even if Shenron couldn't stop Frieza, who was much more powerful than before, the dragon should at least know how to defeat Emperor Frieza or help Goku and his friends eliminate the threat that was Black Frieza. Goku said, "Will Shenron be useful this time? Not that he's useless. After all, if it weren't for Shenron, many of us wouldn't be alive today. And I'm one of them. After all, I've died a few times, and without Shenron's help, I would be dead, and Vegeta would have destroyed or conquered the planet. And later, he would have been killed by Frieza. At that time, Vegeta and I faced Frieza on planet Namek. In short, everyone we love would be dead, and the 7th universe would have been destroyed. If I hadn't given the idea of the tournament of power of our universe, it would have already been destroyed, because we don't have the ideal mortal level. So, kind of indirectly, Shenron saved the 7th universe," said the Saiyan thoughtfully as he looked at everyone around him, and saw that everyone was agreeing with him, except Granola, who didn't know even half of the things that the Saiyan and the Z fighters had faced over the years. Vegeta said, "You talk that way, it makes you look like an intelligent Saiyan, Kakarot. You don't even look like the Saiyan who already has children, but doesn't even know what a kiss is," said the Prince of the Saiyans while looking at his rival, who ended up closing face after hearing what Vegeta said. Apparently, Vegeta liked to call Goku dumb or brainless, and most of the time, Goku simply ignored his comments. Beerus said, "One thing is for sure, Shenron does not have powers to change anything, much less affect Frieza in any way. But Shenron may have important information to help us defeat Frieza in some way," said the God of Destruction while looking at the Saiyans, who agreed with Beerus. After all, Shenron had not been so useful since the time the Saiyans met Beerus, who a few years ago had come to the planet to find the Super Saiyan God. Granola said, "Who exactly is this Shenron guy you talked about?" asked Truffle, while looking at the Saiyans. Granola didn't know who Shenron was until the moment, since nobody had explained anything to Granola. Whis said, "Shenron is the dragon god of desires, just like Torambo, who is the dragon god you met and made a wish to become more powerful. But unlike Torambo, Shenron has larger spears, and there's 7 spears in total. But if we are going to classify the two, I would say that Torambo is stronger than Shenron," spoke the angel, finally explaining to Granola who Shenron was and the fact that the dragon god that Granola had invoked before was stronger than Shenron, because Shenron would not be able to leave the Granola as powerful as it was. Granola thought, "So you've had a wishing dragon this whole time? If you had a dragon god or wishes all the time, why didn't you ask to become stronger in the past? then you wouldn't have died so many times, and you could have eliminated Frieza's bug decades ago. Tuffle was thought while looking at the Saiyans with a bored face. After all, if the Saiyans had the power of the Dragon God, who could grant wishes for them, why didn't the Saiyans use the power before to become more powerful and eliminate Frieza when he was still weak? Goku said, "Hey Mr. Beerus, you're stronger than Frieza in his new transformation. He called Black Frieza. So couldn't you just go after him and erase Frieza using his power of destruction?" asked the Saiyan while looking at the god of destruction of his universe, who could eliminate Frieza quickly if he wanted to. Beerus said, "I can, but I'm not going to do that," said the god of destruction with a certain disdain to Goku's request, and that surprised everyone. Vegeta said, "And why don't you do it, Beerus? You know very well that Frieza is not only dangerous for us, but for you too. I'm sure one of his goals is to eliminate you and become the new god of destruction. So why don't you eliminate the one who wants to take your position of god of destruction?" asked the Prince of Saiyans to the god of destruction of his universe, who faced him seriously before answering his question. Beerus said, "The reason is simple. This is the fault and responsibility of you two idiot Saiyans. You two always knew that the moment Frieza was revived, he would act up, just like he did several times in the past. And Frieza admitted this when the Tournament of Power ended. So the responsibility to go after him and eliminate that vermin is on you two, and yet you left Frieza aside, and in that time he became stronger. I don't know if you did it to have a more intense and exciting fight against Frieza, or if you did it because you were stupid and forgot that damn Frieza is obsessed with defeating you two, and in that, the most humiliating way possible. I will not interfere on that subject, but in case Frieza becomes a bigger threat, I myself will eliminate that worm. And I will also eliminate you two for your great incompetence," said the god of destruction in an irritated tone. After all, that could have been avoided if Goku and Vegeta had finished off Frieza after the Tournament of Power. Goku said, "But it was you yourself who told Whis to revive Frieza," said the Saiyan with one of his eyebrows raised while facing Beerus, who ended up blushing because of shame. After all, he was also to blame for Frieza being more powerful. Beerus said, "I am a god of destruction who honors his agreements, and Goku had said that he would revive Frieza, so it wasn't my fault because I just fulfilled my part of the agreement," said the god of destruction, trying to act as if nothing that had happened was his fault, and that made everyone present sigh at the thought. After the small conversation that was friendly, but became a little heavier among the group, everyone could see that Bulma was arriving at the place, and with her was Goten and Trunks, who were holding the 7 Dragon Balls with them. Bulma said, "Sorry for the delay, I had forgotten where the Dragon Balls were, and now we're here, let's invoke Shenron soon, because the more the time passes, the more Frieza becomes stronger, and with that he plans a way to destroy us all," said the human while looking at the group that was present in the place, and behind her were Goten and Trunks, who placed the spears side by side on the table. Bulma said, "Shenron, come and fulfill my wish, please." Bulma spoke while looking at the Dragon Balls that began to glow, and suddenly a light rose to the heavens, making time, before becoming closed, and soon the light took the form of a large thin dragon in the Oriental style with green scales and red eyes. Shenron said, You summoned me? Do you need me to bring someone from the dead back to life? After all, apparently that's all I'm good for you currently," said the god approaching the present beings, and some of them felt that Shenron had a certain grudge for the fact that they called the dragon god useless in their last meeting. Bulma said, "Don't hold a grudge against us, Shenron. If you want to hold a grudge against someone, hold it against Beerus, because he was the one who called you unless the last time we saw each other," said the human while looking at the dragon god of desires, and then looking at Beerus, who just rolled his eyes and looked away. Shenron spoke, "Anyway, say what you want. What can this humble dragon god of wishes do for you on this beautiful sunny day?" said the dragon god of desires in a tone of sarcasm. After all, with his arrival, the sky was completely closed and dark. Goku said, "Shenron, Frieza, who is one of our main enemies over the years, he ended up becoming stronger, and even me and Vegeta with the help of Granola were not able to face him. We were all using our full power, and yet we were humiliated by Frieza. So we want to know if you know a way to defeat Frieza, or if there's a way to become so powerful that we can face and defeat Frieza. Can you help us do one of these things?" asked the Saiyan, looking at the dragon, who thought for a few minutes before giving an answer to Goku's question. Shenron said, "I don't know how to defeat Frieza in the state he is in, and much less how to make you more powerful. but I know someone who can help you. If I remember correctly, there are two people who could make you more powerful. One of them is a descendant of Sulfurigin, who has isolated himself from everyone, but knows a way to push the powers of a member of his race to the limit, and still managed to break that limit. And the other person is the one that day you wanted me to bring here to face Beerus-sama. And that person is the one who was the first Saiyan to become a deity, said the Dragon God, surprising the two Saiyans who were on site. Vegeta said, Yamoshi, said the Prince of Saiyans incredulously with the information he had just received. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in the Capsule Corporation, which was the place where Beerus, the current god of destruction of that universe, and Whis visited the most when they went to planet Earth. It was possible to see that in the Capsule Corporation were gathered very powerful beings like the god of destruction, his angel, the strongest Saiyans Son Goku and Vegeta, Granola, who had the power of both Son Goku and Vegeta. In the Capsule Corporation were also present the two sons of Son Goku and Vegeta, and along with them was Bulma, Vegeta's wife. Everyone in the place was looking at Shenron, the dragon god of desires who resided on planet Earth, and had been invoked by Bulma in order to discover a way to defeat Frieza, who had achieved a new transformation. Shenron ended up revealing the name of a person who shocked everyone by still being alive, because that person was the first Saiyan to awaken the power of a god. But until that moment, that person was dead. Goku said, But how is that possible? You yourself had said that Yamoshi had died thousands of years ago. When we asked you to bring him to face Mr. Beerus at the time, he came to Earth in search of the Super Saiyan God. So explain to me how Yamoshi can be alive? Asked the Saiyan, surprised. And it wasn't just him. Everyone except Granola knew about the legend of the Super Saiyan God, and knew how strong she or he was. Shenron spoke. At the time, I knew about the legend of Yamoshi and the legend of the Super Saiyan God. But from my sources and knowledge, Yamoshi was long dead. But apparently, she is still alive. And I couldn't find Yamoshi at the time, because somehow she managed to hide. And as you know, I have a certain limit of power, and finding Yamoshi was something very difficult at the time. So since I didn't feel her power, I said that Yamoshi could not be brought to Earth, since the Super Saiyan God was a transformation and not a person. But I don't remember saying that she was dead at the time, said the Dragon God of Desires while looking at everyone who was at the place. Beerus spoke. So, the first Saiyan who managed to become a god is still alive. If Yamoshi was alive all this time, how could Whis not find her back then? Look, escaping Shenron's radar is not very difficult since he has limited power, but Whis is an angel, and is the most powerful being in the 7th universe. So how did this Saiyan manage to escape Whis? Asked the god of destruction as he looked at Shenron, who was saddened by again being seen as weaker than Whis, who just took one of his hands to his chin. Whis said, I think I should have analyzed it better at the time, said the angel, attracting the attention of everyone present, except Shenron, who already knew what the angel was talking about. Vegeta said, What are you talking about, Whis? Asked the Saiyan while he looked at the angel, who was the center of attention at that moment. Whis said, Well, at the time we came to Earth after the Super Saiyan God, there was another Saiyan with a strangely low power. It was as if this Saiyan power was sealed or limited on purpose, and I was going to talk to Mr. Beerus about the Saiyan. Said Mr. Beerus preferred to come to Earth because of Vegeta, since Beerus thought that because Vegeta was the prince of the Saiyans, he could know who the Super Saiyan God was. Said the angel while looking at his god of destruction, who turned her face away. After all, if it weren't for Beerus's impatience, Yamoshi would have been found a long time ago. Bulma said, Look, I don't know if you noticed, but when Shenron and Whis are referring to Yamoshi, other than by name, they are using the female pronoun. Hey Shenron, could you give me a description of what Yamoshi looks like, and what his or her gender is? Asked Bulma when looking at the Dragon God of Wishes, and soon everyone realized that Bulma was right. After all the many times she was used to refer to Yamoshi. Shenron spoke. Yamoshi is a Saiyan with extreme power, but she is not a man as you imagined, but a woman. Yamoshi is a woman with long white hair and eyes similar to silver. And like the ancient Saiyans, Yamoshi wears combat clothes, similar to what Vegeta normally wears, said the Dragon God of Desires, shocking everyone with the news that Yamoshi was in fact a woman and not a man. So Yamoshi, the first of the Saiyans who became a divinity, is actually a woman, and that same woman is Goku and Vegeta's hope of becoming stronger to defeat Frieza? asked the woman as she looked at Shenron, who was staring at everyone's surprised face, except Whis, who knew that Yamoshi was a woman. Shenron spoke. That's right. You all thought that Yamoshi was a man because the legend of the Super Saiyan God and the legendary Super Saiyan always referred to a man. But you should remember that at the time the Saiyans were very sexist and thought that the Saiyan women were not so strong as Saiyan men. But that began to change because of Yamoshi, who had become the most powerful Saiyan of his time. However, the king of that time ended up leaving the legend, as if he were a male Saiyan, and Yamoshi did not change anything because when Yamoshi became a goddess, she disappeared from the planet. And so the legend was created and passed down from generation to generation until it was lost, said the dragon god of desires while looking at those who were present at that place. Vegeta said, That's a fact. There was never a woman who was remembered in the history of Saiyans. So not saying that Yamoshi was a woman was a way of keeping men as superior. It seems that no matter how much time passes, the past never stays in the past and always comes up to torment us. Especially I, who am the Prince of Saiyans, said the Prince of Saiyans while bringing one of his hands to his forehead. But he remembered of all the wrong his race had done over the years. Beerus said, Hey, Shenron, we need Yamoshi, so bring her here for us, said the god of destruction as he looked at the dragon god of wishes, that he sighed hearing that. Shenron said, Sorry, but I can't do this. Yamoshi must have some skill that prevents me from touching her or interacting with her. Maybe it's because of her divine power or the place where she is. After all, Yamoshi has many years, and over the time, she must have mastered the powers of Super God Saiyajin to a point where her divinity surpasses even mine. So unfortunately, I can't bring Yamoshi here, said the dragon god of desires as he looked at everyone present and saw Beerus sigh. Beerus said, Wow, you really are useless, Shenron, said the god of destruction after sighing. But before Beerus could speak or do anything, he ended up getting slapped on the head, and who gave that slap was Bulma. That surprised Granola, who was surprised by the fact that a weak human smacked a god of destruction on the head. Bulma said, The only one useless here is you, Beerus, because if you were useful, you would have already killed Frieza once and for all. Now, Shenron, could you give us the location of where Yamoshi lives? Because even if you can't bring her to us, you can tell us where Yamoshi is, can't you? Asked the human while looking at the dragon god of desires, who was surprised by the fact that a god of destruction had been slapped on the head by a mere human without powers. Shenron said, Yes, I know where Yamoshi is, and I can send you there if you want. But I already say that you shouldn't provoke Yamoshi, because even if she hasn't fought for a long time, Yamoshi is still the first Saiyan to reach the power of a deity, and I guarantee she's not weak at all. So if you want a tip, don't tease her, and much less talk about her age. After all, Yamoshi is still a woman, and as you know, women don't like people who ask about their age. Spoke the dragon god of desires while looking at Bulma, who agreed. And those who were married like Goku and Vegeta knew that what Shenron said not to do was the same thing as starting a fight with a woman. Granola said, Since that's how it is when you send Goku and Vegeta to this Yamoshi, send me to the place where this powerful Sufurujin is, so I can train with him. Said the Sufurujin, showing that he was still present in the place. Bulma said, Right. Since that's how you can send Goku and Vegeta minus Granola to the planet where Yamoshi is, and while you're going to train, I'm going to gather the other Z fighters so they're ready, in case Frieza makes an attack on our planet together with his army, said the woman as she walked away from the group. And with her was Goten and Trunks, who even wanted to meet the goddess of Saiyans. They couldn't since Bulma wouldn't let them. Shenron said, Right, then let's go, said the dragon god of desires, making his eyes shine. And soon everyone disappeared, and with that, the dragon spheres rose to the heavens and separated. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on the planet Namek, it was possible to see Goku, Vegeta, Whis, and Beerus appearing a few kilometers from the village that belonged to one of the elders of the Namekians. They had appeared in that village because Bulma had asked Shenron to send the Saiyans and those who were with him to the place where Yamoshi should be living. But as Shenron couldn't send everyone directly to the place where Yamoshi was, the Saiyans with Whis and Beerus were sent to the place closest to where Yamoshi should be. Vegeta said, So, Yamoshi was on planet Namek this whole time. Of all the planets in the 7th universe, this was the last planet I thought she would be on. Even more so on a planet that was already destroyed years ago. How long has it been since she came to live on this planet? asked the Prince of the Saiyans as he looked around and saw that he was on a mountain with his Saiyan rival and his divine allies. Goku said, "I don't know, but I know that it hasn't been long since Yamoshi has lived in Namek. After all, this planet was destroyed in the past by Frieza, and if Yamoshi had been on the planet at that time, she should have stopped Frieza," Goku said, looking at sides and seeing the terrain of the planet, including a large crystal-clear lake. Beerus spoke. "Did Shenron bring us to the right planet? Because I still can't feel the energy coming from Yamoshi. So I think Shenron just sent us to the wrong planet. Because I'm not surprised that the Dragon God has proven useless once again." Beerus spoke while looking around and sighed as he thought that the Dragon God of Desires of planet Earth was being useless once again. Vegeta said, "Now that you said that, Beerus, I'm not feeling any powerful ki around either. In fact, I am, but not to the point of being a goddess," Vegeta said when he opened his eyes, because he had closed them to feel the ki of all the beings around, and no one had the considerable power to be the goddess Yamoshi. Goku said, "Now that you said it, I can feel several ki energies nearby, but none of them have a power great enough to be Yamoshi's, since she's the first Saiyan to become a goddess. But still, the power of the Namekians who live close by are not short. I don't know how they became so strong, but the Namekians near here have a very high power by normal standards." Goku said, a little surprised to feel the fighting power of the Namekians who lived near the place, and there were some who had a power quite high by the standards of the breed. Whis said, I would say that Yamoshi must have been responsible for making the Namekians more powerful, an alias Mr. Beerus. Miss Yamoshi is indeed on this planet, and Shenron did his job perfectly this time," said the angel while looking at Beerus, who just turned his face. After all, Beerus didn't like to be retorted by anyone. Beerus said, "If she's on this planet, why am I, who am a god of destruction, not able to feel her power?" asked the god of destruction while looking at his angel, who then hit his staff on the ground, causing a kind of hologram to appear, and it showed a kind of invisible dome surrounding the planet, and there were thousands of invisible layers, which prevented one from feeling the energy of Yamoshi. Whis spoke. "As you can see, around the planet there are several layers of an energy that prevents other beings from feeling the power of a certain being, and the more power someone has, the more layers are needed to hide their power. And how can you see yourself? There are thousands of layers of energy around the planet, and the main layer comes from that village, a few kilometers from here. So I would say that Yamoshi must be there, and not only that, but none of you could feel the power of the Namekians. And by the way, this is not their full power, and I should say that there are warriors in this village that could even take on Mr. Goku and Vegeta one-on-one. The Namekians would not win if you two fought seriously, but that they would be difficult to defeat, this is an undeniable fact," said the angel while looking at everyone who was in that place, and they ended up being surprised to learn that there were Namekians who could even get them worked. That showed just what Yamoshi was doing, and it was working. Goku said, "So Yamoshi really is on this planet? So let's go get her. I want to know how strong she is, and maybe she and I can face each other," said the Saiyan, excited about the possibility of facing someone so strong, something that made everyone sigh because they knew Goku's personality very well, and that he would do everything to face Yamoshi and Vegeta, even not showing that he was also wanting to face her. After all, it's not every day you have a chance to face an ancient goddess of your race. Beerus said, "So, let's go. I want to see up close who is the one who will be able to become a divinity in the past, and who even after so many years is still alive," Vegeta said as he walked towards the Namekian village, and seeing that the rest of the group began to follow the Saiyan. Goku was quite excited about his possible confrontation with Yamoshi and Vegeta as well, but unlike his rival, he was containing his excitement. Goku and his group were being led by Whis, who ended up in front of the group. After all, he was the only one who could feel Yamoshi's power, and that's why he was leading the group. Upon entering the village where Yamoshi lived, everyone felt that the energy of those warriors, which was high before, became even greater, as if they had been transformed. In reality, all Namekians already had that power, but now Goku, Vegeta, and Beerus could feel the power of those warriors, and for the first time, everyone felt for a brief moment the power of Yamoshi. And that made Goku and Vegeta widen their eyes, because that woman's power level was much higher than they expected, and that should be her base form. Goku said, "That's her power? That's as big as mine and Vegeta's," but the two of us only have that level of power when we're transformed into Super Saiyan 2, thought the Saiyan, impressed with the power of the most powerful woman of his race, probably more powerful than him and his rival. Vegeta thought, so that power level of the Saiyan goddess, she really is someone who deserves such a title, and her power shows that Yamoshi is not to be underestimated. I'm looking forward to meeting her, thought the Prince of Saiyans as he looked in the direction and felt Yamoshi's power. Beerus thought, Yamoshi has an interesting power level, but I still don't feel her divine power. So she must be in her base form, and that means Yamoshi is even stronger since she is not in her divine form. Is it the Yamoshi I dreamt of in the past? I'll finally meet the Saiyan goddess who can defeat me, thought the god of destruction while remembering the past when he met Goku and Vegeta. Beerus was after the Super Saiyan god, but he didn't find him at the time. But now maybe he can find him. After walking for a few more seconds, everyone was stopped by two Namekians who started asking them questions. Suddenly, everyone's attention was drawn to a house that should belong to Yamoshi, but the small group was surprised when a part of the house exploded. A Namekian with black skin went flying and knocking down some things in the process. And with that, everyone returned to pay attention to the house, and in the smoke formed by the attack, a woman with long white hair wearing a Saiyan combat suit identical to Vegeta's came out of the smoke. And as if by magic, she disappeared and reappeared in front of the black Namekian, who tried to shoot a spear of ki towards some people, but Yamoshi ended up holding his arm and pointed it upwards, making the spear of ki rise to the sky and explode. And before the Namekian could speak or try to do something, Yamoshi landed a punch on him that sent him flying out, fainting in the process. Yamoshi said, There are men who really don't know how to take a no. Get him out of here, please. Let the elder know that I didn't accept the black Namekian's marriage proposal. Actually, I want him to bring the elder to my house. After all, we have a special guest today, and make it quick. We can't leave the god of destruction waiting. Yamoshi spoke as she turned around and appeared in front of Beerus, holding his chin. Yamoshi surprised Beerus with her speed. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in a safe and secret village on the planet Namek, it was possible to see Beerus and Whis together with Goku and Vegeta. All of them were currently at Yamoshi's house. The first Saiyan who managed to transform into a divinity, Yamoshi, was sitting in a big chair along with all the other beings present. Yamoshi was sitting in the center, and next to her was a green Namekian who was the elder of that village and a longtime friend of Yamoshi. Everyone was impressed with the speed demonstrated by Yamoshi, and the most impressed were Goku and Vegeta, who hadn't ever seen Yamoshi's movement. The way she disappeared and reappeared right in front of Beerus holding his chin. Beerus had found Yamoshi daring by the way she acted with him, even knowing that Beerus was the god of destruction of the 7th universe. And Whis found that interesting, because the Saiyans already knew about the god of destruction, and the other universes, which showed that Yamoshi had much more knowledge than Whis imagined, and the strength she hid was very great, perhaps even superior to the power of the god of destruction. Even though Yamoshi was in her base form, after all, she should be able to transform into Super Saiyan God just like Son Goku and Vegeta. Yamoshi spoke. So, my dear guest, what do you want with this humble Saiyan? Because I'm sure you didn't come here just to meet me. After all, who would spend so much time looking for me in a place protected by thousands of barriers that prevent any being from feeling a fraction of my power? Any being with the exception of an angel like you, Whis. Yamoshi spoke while looking at all the beings present in the place, with Whis as his main focus. Whis said, So, you know who we are, and you know what we are. But how exactly do you know that? Could you answer my question if you don't mind? Asked the angel while he looked at the woman who just looked to the side where the elder of that village was. Yamoshi said, All I know is that it has nothing to do with combat or ki control. I learned that from this young man named Yuhiko and his ancestors, who ended up welcoming me in the past when I arrived on this planet injured. The great-grandfather ended up taking care on me, and I remained on this planet until today. Yamoshi spoke while looking at a Namekian friend who just sighed with the woman's carefree speech. Yuhiko said, 1,000 pardons for the way this stupid monkey acted. As you may know, Saiyans are not a very social race, and most of them are airheads who don't know how to think straight. They only know how to fight, and this idiot is a clear example of that, Yuhiko said while looking at the divine beings present, who nodded mentally with him. After all, Goku was literally everything he had said, and Vegeta just wasn't that way because he was a prince, and as such, he had learned to be polite. Vegeta spoke. You said you arrived at this planet injured. How were you injured and why? After recovering, did you not return to the planet of the Saiyans? Asked the Prince of the Saiyans, who faced the oldest ancestor of his race, who deserved all his respect. Yamoshi spoke. I was injured in combat with an old flame of mine, who ended up getting jealous when I first transformed into Super Saiyan God. My old flame tried to become a Super Saiyan God, but his heart wasn't pure enough to become one. Then he was overcome with envy, and somehow my old flame ended up getting into a corrupted Super Saiyan God spirit, and he and I started fighting in, and our first match, I ended up defeating my old flame together with the corrupted Saiyans. But I was hurt, and I knew that the king of the time didn't like me, so I left the planet. I ended up here, and with the help of Yuhiko's ancestors, I ended up surviving. After that, I tried to return to the Saiyans' planet, but it didn't work. So I started wandering around the universe. But my old flame came after me, and he and I started to fight, and almost died in that fight. But I had a seed of the gods, so I managed to survive. Yamoshi said while remembering her own past and everything she ended up living because of an old passion that betrayed her just out of envy. Vegeta spoke. So there's a way to transform into a Super Saiyan God without using the Saiyan ritual, or without facing someone who possesses divine power? Asked the Prince of Saiyans while he looked at Yamoshi. Yamoshi said, yes, there is a third way to transform into a Super Saiyan God, but this transformation is called Corrupted Super Saiyan God, and to get that power it is necessary for a Saiyan to kill 1,000 Saiyans with pure heart and body, and it was like that of my old crush that ended up turning into a Super Saiyan God. He killed 1,000 Saiyans. To be precise, my old crush ended up killing 1,000 children to get that power. That's how he got the power. Luckily, you two don't have to use this method, because I felt the divine energy corrupted within you two. I would kill you. Even if you are cute, I would still have no mercy. Yamoshi spoke while looking at Goku and Vegeta in an analytical way, surprising both Saiyans with the fact that she knew they were both Saiyans, and that they could also transform into Super Saiyan God. Goku said, how do you know that Vegeta and I are Saiyans, and how do you know that he and I managed to transform into Super Saiyan God? Goku asked while looking at the woman in front of them, who just sighed at the level of knowledge of those two Saiyans in front of her. Yamoshi said, I'm the first Saiyan to get the power of a divine being, and during all this time, you thought I stood still? Sorry guys, but unlike you two, I've already mastered the power of a Super Saiyan God. And I say that this Super Saiyan God form that you two must know is not even half of the true power of our God form. But when you manage to use at least the 2 stages of the Super Saiyan God, you'll be able to know who is Super Saiyan and who is not, and who has a divine power. If you can get out of the level you have. Yamoshi said, surprising everyone, because everyone thought that the transformation that Goku and Vegeta possessed was already the power of Super Saiyan God, and Super Saiyan Blue could be considered an evolution of it. Beerus spoke. Isn't the Super Saiyan God that Goku and Vegeta possess the true power of a Super Saiyan God? Asked the God of Destruction while looking at the Saiyan. Yamoshi said, yes, the power that these two possess is not the true power of a Super Saiyan God, because if it were, you would not have come to me. After all, the only thing that would make you look for the oldest ancestor of the Saiyans would be to find out how to stay stronger to defeat the Arcosiano named Frieza. It must be in the Arcosians' instinct to want to dominate everything. It's a good thing I killed almost all of them, or there would have been a galactic war for domination between the Arcosians years ago. Yamoshi said, while looking at the Saiyans who didn't know that Frieza had a race, yet alone that Yamoshi had faced and killed them. Which said, so it was you who destroyed the Arcosians, but from what I heard, there were 2 people, more precisely, a couple who ended up destroying the Arcosians, or most of them, said the angel while looking at Yamoshi, who was yawning at that moment. Yamoshi said, yes, it was me and my old flame, along with some other Saiyans. We destroyed the Arcosians, but we ended up leaving some of them alive, which was a mistake. But as the Arcosians are very difficult to reproduce, they would die soon. Now there's only one of them, and that must be Frieza. Now say what you want to know, Prince of Saiyans, because I don't like that look of yours very much. Yamoshi said as she was looking at the angel, but soon she looked at the Prince of Saiyans, who had a serious look. Vegeta spoke. You are very strong and could have saved our race from extinction if you wanted to. "So why did you let our people be enslaved and then killed by that Frieza bug?" asked the Saiyan in a furious tone while looking at his ancestor. Yamoshi said, "Sorry, kid, I didn't do that because I really didn't want to. I knew Frieza had enslaved the Saiyans and I could stop him, but I didn't because I'm not on this planet just because I'm safe. I'm also here to prevent the damn thing I loved before from going out and destroying everything and all the mortals and planets he sees ahead just to make me face him." Yamoshi spoke before hitting one of his hands on the table, causing the table to be destroyed. Then Yamoshi left the place, leaving everyone confused, except Yuhiko. Vegeta spoke. "What happened to her?" asked the Saiyan Prince as he looked at the Namekian elder. Yuhiko said, "Well, I don't tell everyone about this, but you need to know that if you want to get along with Yamoshi and not end up getting killed by her," Yuhiko said while looking at the Saiyans in front of him. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in a village on the planet Namek, it was possible to see Beerus, Whis, Goku, and Vegeta sitting around a table that had been destroyed by the hands of Yamoshi, who had gotten angry and ended up destroying the table. At that moment, all those present were looking at the village elder, who was called Yuhiko. Everyone was wanting to know why Yamoshi had acted that way when Vegeta questioned her about why she had not tried to stop Frieza and his father from enslaving all Saiyans. Vegeta spoke. "Why did Yamoshi act like that when I asked her about why she let her race be enslaved by Frieza's worm?" asked the Prince of Saiyans while looking at the old man who was thoughtful. Yuhiko ended up sighing. Yuhiko said, "The subject is a little delicate for Yamoshi because it makes her remember the mistakes she made and her lack of courage. I'll tell you a story," Yuhiko said, looking at all those who were present there who wanted to know the true story of Yamoshi. Yuhiko spoke. "A long time ago, even before Yamoshi got the power of a goddess, she was a student at a combat academy on the planet of Saiyans. Since at the time the power of women was considered inferior to that of men, she had to endure many things. But she showed her power and persistence in front of all the other Saiyans. Among those Saiyans there was one that since her birth was designated as a low-class Saiyan. This Saiyan wanted to be as strong and important as the high-class Saiyans. His name was Hiroki. Yamoshi and Hiroki ended up becoming friends during the time they lived in the academy, and over time they ended up becoming rivals, with the same dream of showing everyone that they would not let their destinies be guided by other people, and that a woman could be as strong as a man, and that a low-class Saiyan could be as powerful as a high-class Saiyan," said the elder to the guests who were paying close attention to his words. And the smartest ones like Whis and Vegeta had already discovered that the former passion quoted by Yamoshi before should be this Hiroki guy. Yuhiko spoke. "With time, Yamoshi and Hiroki ended up becoming the strongest in the academy, being able to even face the princes of the Saiyans of the time. The king of that time had 2 twin sons, who had been born very strong for the normal standard, and they always stood out in the academy. But one day Hiroki ended up challenging the youngest of the princes, and using all his power, Hiroki managed to defeat him. But Hiroki ended up being very injured. Seeing that, the oldest prince, who was stronger than the younger one, tried to kill Hiroki, but Yamoshi didn't let him, and the two ended up getting into a frantic fight between them. Yamoshi ended up winning and showing everyone that Hiroki and Yamoshi weren't weak," said the old man before one of the employees arrived at the place and changed the table that was broken for a new one, where another employee placed some cups of tea. Yuhiko ended up taking a sip before speaking again. Vegeta thought, "I know that back then the power levels of the Saiyans wasn't that great compared to the power level of the current ones. But back then, the level of power from birth and the blood that flowed through the veins of the Saiyans defined whether they would, and they become someone important or just weak soldiers who would only serve to die on the front lines. So the fact that these two defeated 2 princes who were already said to be prodigies is something very surprising. But for the nobles it's a bad thing. After all, it was like giving a punch to the nobles, saying that someone inferior to them was actually superior," thought the Prince of Saiyans, who had received a certain level of teaching about politics in the past when the planet of Saiyans, Hiroki, and Yamoshi existed. Yuhiko said, "Thanks to the victory of Hiroki and Yamoshi, most of the nobles of the Saiyan planet kept an eye on them and tried to bring Yamoshi and Hiroki to their side. Many nobles tried to make Yamoshi marry their children, and at the same time happened with Hiroki, but none of them came to accept the deal with the nobles. Over the years, a large part of the Saiyan planet knew Yamoshi and Hiroki, but Yamoshi never wanted fame or anything like that. She just wanted her strength recognized by the powerful Saiyans. But Hiroki, on the other hand, wanted more fame and power. He was blinded because of this, and seeing Yamoshi, who had more fame and recognition than him, throwing it all away made him extremely angry. So much so that many times Hiroki tried to humiliate Yamoshi, who was a strong warrior, but a naive woman who did not believe when someone spoke badly of Hiroki in front of her because of Yamoshi's head. His old friend and rival would not be able to commit such atrocities that the other Saiyans spoke, said the old man in a sad tone, because Yuhiko knew how much his friends had suffered at Hiroki's hands. Yuhiko said, "More years passed, and with that Yamoshi and Hiroki ended up leaving the academy and became soldiers who roamed the universe in search of conquering unpopulated planets and going after people with great rewards on their heads. At that time, the Saiyans were mercenaries and not conquerors. But with time, Yamoshi reached the age to form a family, and Hiroki, for being the person she knew best, ended up becoming her suitor. And after a few years, they got married and had 2 children who ended up being killed during a battle between the Saiyans and the Arcosians. And that was the main reason for Yamoshi to face and almost extinguish the Arcosians," said the old man, surprising everyone by the fact that Yamoshi had already been married and had children in the past. After all, the information that everyone had was limited, and not even Whis knew much. Goku thought, "Now it makes sense for Yamoshi to have faced members of Frieza's race. I remember when Black said that he had killed my wife and son Goten along with everyone I loved. I felt so angry that I couldn't think of anything other than defeating Frieza, and Yamoshi must have felt in the same way. Could it be that she was able to transform into a Super Saiyan by feeling such anger, or does Yamoshi not have Super Saiyan?" asked Goku when remembering the time when he faced Zamasu, who had killed and stolen her body in the future. Yuhiko said, "After the fall of the Arcosians, Yamoshi tried to return to his normal life, but some people started to say that Hiroki cheated on Yamoshi with some noble girls, and that ended her peace, and a few years later the evil Saiyans ended up appearing, and with that Yamoshi ended up becoming a goddess for the first time. And using the power she got, Yamoshi defeated all the evil Saiyans, and so the planet entered an era of peace. But Hiroki was very jealous of her, because Yamoshi had become a goddess, and he didn't. And when the second war against the evil Saiyans happened, Hiroki wanted to become a Super Saiyan god, but it didn't work out because he didn't have a pure heart. And that was obvious, because the one who had caused this second war against the evil Saiyans was Hiroki. That taken by a desire of anger and envy, she ended up killing several people with a pure heart, because Hiroki thought that if he couldn't become a Super Saiyan god with a pure heart, he would corrupt his heart as much as possible, and with that he would be able to have the same power as Yamoshi. And unfortunately, Hiroki got it. Yuhiko spoke in a slightly irritated tone at the fact that so many innocents had been killed by Hiroki's dark desires. Yuhiko said, "After that day, Yamoshi and Hiroki faced each other, and it was the first of many fights, because even with Yamoshi's winning, she couldn't kill Hiroki because she still loved the man and would never be able to kill him. But Hiroki wanted to kill Yamoshi anyway to prove to be superior to her. And because of that, Yuhiko spoke before being interrupted by the noise of the door being opened abruptly by Yamoshi. Yamoshi said, "Because of the obsessive desire that Hiroki had to kill me, he started destroying planets and killing people to get my attention and forced me to face him. Because of that, I went to search in a way to hide my power. And with the help of Yuhiko's ancestors, we managed to create these thousands of barriers to hide power. And after years of destroying civilizations, Hiroki stopped because he saw that it was no longer affecting me. But I carry every planet and person he killed as a sin on my back. I will always carry it. You wanted to know my story? So now you know." Yamoshi spoke in the corner of the room, with his back against the wall, as he looked at the floor. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in one of the villages on the planet Namek, it was possible to see that in the house where Yamoshi lived, there was Beerus, Whis, Son Goku, and Vegeta, and next to them was the village elder Yuhiko, who was the leader of that village, while Yamoshi was the guardian and responsible for training all the Namekian warriors. Inside Yamoshi's residence, it was possible to see that the atmosphere in the residence was very heavy. The conversation between them had reached a point that did not please the ancestor of the Saiyans very much, and thanks to that the atmosphere ended up getting pretty heavy. Yuhiko spoke. "Let's leave the past in the past. Now that you've asked what you wanted to know, it's time for us to ask what you want in our village, and especially, what do you want with Yamoshi?" asked the elder of that village, as he looked steadily at the beings in front of her. Vegeta said, "Don't get me wrong, but our main subject is with Yamoshi, and I don't think you should get involved in something that is none of your business or interest, but it's nothing personal," said the Prince of Saiyans with a more arrogant tone than usual. After all, Vegeta didn't like talking to weaklings or vermin in his opinion. Yamoshi spoke. "You are weaker than I imagined. If you were strong enough, or had managed to master at least the power of the Super Saiyan God, you could feel the power of a deity without being transformed," said the goddess of Saiyans in a tone more fun while looking at the members of her race. Goku said, "I didn't understand very well. What did Yamoshi mean by that, Whis?" asked the Saiyan looking at the angel of his universe. Whis said, "Use it in your Super Saiyan God forms, and you two will understand what Yamoshi meant," said the angel, giving a slight look to the two Saiyans. Goku and Vegeta didn't understand what was happening, but they both obeyed Whis and transformed into Super Saiyan God. And in doing so, the Saiyans felt an enormous amount of ki being released by Yuhiko, who wasn't even making an effort to do so. Yuhiko said, "The elders of this village are not decided just because they are smart and know how to solve problems, but also the elders must be the strongest among the Namekians. And I am an ancient elder, and during that time, I have already been challenged countless times. None of them were able to defeat me. Yamoshi is the strongest in the village, but she's not a Namekian. She can't be an elder. But I can, and that's why I'm the second strongest person in this village. So I recommend that you don't treat me that way, or I'll have to crush you." Yuhiko spoke in a serious tone as he looked at both Saiyans, who unconsciously trembled when they felt the gaze of the old woman. Vegeta thought, "I just trembled like this before, when I said that Bulma was getting old and fat, and even though she was a normal human, I felt very scared. But this one's scaring me because Yuhiko really can kill me if she wants to," thought the Prince of Saiyans while looking with a certain fear at the power of the Namekian elder. Yamoshi said, "Yuhiko, you can stop releasing your energy now. After all, they are our hosts, and you always complain here when I don't receive my guests properly, so behave yourself." Yamoshi spoke as she approached and placed one of her hands on the shoulder of the elder woman, who closed her eyes and sighed, making the energy that was being emanated suddenly disappear. Yuhiko said, "You calling me out for not being a good hostess is even ironic, considering you literally threw the representative of the Black Namekians out of your house with your usual Saiyan violence. And don't think we won't have a long talk later about it, Yamoshi," Yuhiko said while staring at her childhood friend, who turned her face away and started whistling, pretending the message hadn't been meant for her. Yamoshi said, "Well, leaving this unpleasant moment about my past and the lack of power of these two Saiyans aside, I'd like to know what you want with me and Yuhiko. You'll stay and listen to everything. After all, she's the elder of the village. I'm the guardian, and anything I do, I need her permission. So say what you want, and if I think it deserves my attention, and Yuhiko lets me, I'll help you. But if it doesn't happen, you leave this village, and don't bother me again," Yamoshi said, taking the chair where she was sitting before and sitting on it again. Beerus said, "In a summarized way, Frieza, the last of the Arcosians, is now very powerful, surpassing the power of Goku and Vegeta, who have the power of Ultra Instinct and Superior Ego, respectively. Even these two Saiyans possess great power in their hands. They could not face Frieza, who got a new power that he named Black Frieza. And using that power, he managed to humiliate Goku and Vegeta with just one blow. So he came after you, Yamoshi, so you could train these two Saiyans to fight Frieza. Because even though I know how dangerous Frieza is, I'm not gonna do anything to help these two. It was these two Saiyans who caused it, so they'll solve the problem," explained the 7th Universe God of Destruction to Yamoshi and Yuhiko, who thought about it a bit. Yuhiko said, "Frieza, the Arconian, who had destroyed our planet in the past, who was later killed and then revived, and then killed again, became a threat again. All because of you two. Because you didn't know how to leave someone dead, definitely dead,"
And now it comes to our village with the intention of asking Yamoshi to train the two of you to solve the problem you caused yourself. And still you dare to insult me. Have I recapitulated it well, or am I missing some important information?" asked the old woman in a sarcastic tone when she found out what those two Saiyans without education or respect had done. Vegeta said, "No, you recounted it very well. It's our current situation created solely and exclusively by Kakarot, who called Frieza to the Tournament of Power, promising to bring him back to life," said the Prince of Saiyans while looking at his Saiyan rival who just scratched his head on his back in embarrassment. Goku said, "Well, in my defense I promised to revive Frieza, but who revived himself was Whis at the behest of Mr. Beerus," said the Saiyan while looking at the god of destruction of the universe who just turned his face. Beerus said, "Frieza is already alive, so the important thing is not who was responsible for bringing him back to life. What matters now is whether Yamoshi is going to train you two Saiyans to kill Frieza. And at this time, it's going to be permanent, because after I kill him, I'm going to hell myself to erase Frieza's existence for all eternity," spoke the god of destruction while looking at the Saiyans, and then at Yamoshi, who had his hands behind his head. Yamoshi said, "Well, I don't mind teaching these two to use the power of the Super Saiyan God in a state above those they have, but I already say that my training is not light, so you'll have to follow all my orders to the letter. If not, I'll send you away," Yamoshi said while looking at the two Saiyans who were in front of her. Goku said, "Right, but before you start training me and Vegeta, I'd like to fight with you a bit to find out how far my power is from your power." The Saiyan spoke while getting up and pumping his fists excited, thinking about facing the first goddess of Saiyans. Whis said, "Mr. Goku seems to be very excited as always," said the angel looking at the Saiyan and seeing that he was excited to face the oldest ancestor of the Saiyans. Yamoshi said, "Well, I wasn't planning to fight anyone today, but if you want to face me, then let's fight. And you can also come, Mr. Prince of the Saiyans," Yamoshi said while getting up, but at that moment, Yuhiko held her wrist preventing her from leaving the place. Yuhiko said, "You will fight, yes, but it won't be with Yamoshi. It will be with me, because I'm still offended by the way the prince spoke to me, and I want to hit someone to de-stress. Nothing better than hitting a Saiyan, because of some Saiyans I'm stressed," Yuhiko said as she stood up and looked at her childhood friend who just gave a smile. Yamoshi said, "Well, it looks like you two already have someone to fight with, so let's go to the arena where you can fight without worrying about anything," said the woman as she left the place along with everyone else. Currently in the 7th universe, being more precise, in the secret village where Yamoshi lived for many years, and this village is present on the planet Namek, it was possible to see a large combat area where several chairs in the stands that were being occupied by the Namekians who had different colors in their skin. Most of them had green skin color, and most of them were Beerus and Whis, who were in a higher area, as if they were VIPs, and in the center of the arena was Yamoshi, who was in the center of the arena, and at the ends from the arena there was Goku and Vegeta, who were getting ready on one side, and on the other side was Yuhiko, who was facing the two Saiyans, who were at the other end of the arena. Yuhiko thought, "Those two idiot Saiyans are going to learn that they shouldn't underestimate someone's strength just because they can't sense that person's power. Just like Yamoshi, I possess divine power because I ended up going through the transcendence ritual that elders receive when they become the definitive elders of our village. And I definitely hate it when someone thinks I'm weak because of the way I'm dressing, acting, or talking to people. I hate even more the idiots who think I'm weak for being a woman. And because of that, I really want to beat up these two idiots. And at the same time, I'm going to take out my anger that Yamoshi is putting me through because of these two," Yuhiko thought in an evil way as he looked at the two Saiyans who would suffer at her hands and would make Goku and Vegeta regret it. Yamoshi thought, "Seems that Yuhiko is serious, and that cold look of hers I only saw a few times, but every time I saw her that way, it didn't go very well for those who felt her cold look. And I can say that their punch is so strong it hurts a lot, and I speak from my own experience," she thought while looking at Yuhiko and remembering that she is the strongest in the village, and that Yuhiko's blows affected her, the Saiyan ancestor. Yamoshi said, "Well, it looks like both sides are ready, so let's start the fight, remembering that it's not necessary for you to hold back, because we have seeds of the gods,
so none of you will die in this fight. That's clear if Yuhiko doesn't use a mass destruction attack, so control yourself, my old friend, she said while looking at her longtime friend, who just gave a simple smile, showing that she wouldn't use enough power to kill those two Saiyans. With that, we'll end today's video. If you want to see the continuation of this incredible story, leave a lot of likes in the video and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on another day, guys.